Hello and welcome to Wilson Solutions. This is video 1 in a series entitled What is MS Access? This video is geared to the manager and it's on the manager's playlist. So let's get started. What we mean by the manager is that the audience for this video is in a company and is either the manager or director, part of a corporate hierarchy who has business analysts or data analysts working for him or her, perhaps numerous other individuals, and it's come to pass that you might need an access database. You have an IT department, but you're not in the IT department. And the idea is that a software vendor outside of your organization, or a contractor or a consultant, an access developer, if you will, has been brought in, or you're talking to this access developer, and they might be part of this software supply vendor or an independent contractor, and they're going to come in, and they're not going to be part of your IT department. They're going to come in and sit with you and be part of your team and create an access database, hopefully a professional access database. And the idea is that you, as the manager or director, need to know a little bit about it before you proceed. So first of all, access comes with Windows. Here I have, it doesn't come with Windows, it comes with Office. I have Office 365, and there you have access as part of it. Here I have two access databases, actually one access database saved two ways. I got it from the U.S. government, the Department of the Interior. It's available for download from data.gov. It's a good example of a database made by somebody else. It came as an MDB. I saved it as an ACCDB. I moved it to my C drive. Access databases can be stored on your network, but they should run local. Here I have it on my C data access hosting DB01 subdirectory, and I'm just going to open it by double clicking. There you have it. Okay, now I'm going to explain the various parts of an MS Access database. This is video 1 on the manager's playlist, and so we're going to keep it at kind of a high level. Not going to get too deep in the weeds here. This is the main window, and this would be the title. For the developer of this database has taken the default title and has changed it to ASIS Herbst Database. That's the title bar. If you click on File and come into Options, you'll get what used to be called the Backstage view. This is Access Options. On current database, you can see it says ASIS Herbst Database. The developer has placed that in there so that we'll get this on the title bar, and there are various options that you can set here. One is Display Navigation Pane, and that is checked. This is the navigation pane here, and it's a very complex structure. See, that's navigation pane right there. It has numerous options to it. It has a search bar that allows for some wildcard searching. In the navigation pane, you have numerous options in terms of your view. You can even go into navigation options and change the view, place things in groups, organize them, change the sorting. It's quite complex, and that would be the navigation pane. There's another thing called the relationships, and this particular database has quite a tangled web of relationships. The various tables and queries that exist in this database are held together in this glue. What you can do is double click on any one of these and see the relationship that exists, for instance, between this table events, and this table field data green. I'll make this a little larger down here. Green card observation. You can see that the relationship that exists there. More about that later. This is a general overview. Notice that just take away from it that relationships do exist. Also on the database tools menu, we have the object dependencies. If I were to find a report, there's a report there. I would say, well, okay, well, show me objects that I depend on. That report depends on these three tables. And this table, given the fact that relationships have been set, depends on that table, and that table depends on these tables, and these tables, it's a tangled mess. That would be the object dependencies. This is the status bar down here. I will find a table of some sort. There we go. Click on a field, and you can see it says location ID code here. Under event ID, it says sampling event ID code. That's a status bar. Very few people look at the status bar, but it is there for you to use. By the way, this is a table that has been opened in Datasheet view. This is a record. I've just clicked on the record selector here. A lot of people have trouble with that. This is a item of data in a field. This would be the field. This is the field name, record ID in this case. These fields are presented in Datasheet view. I can filter and sort in various ways. This is a record. This is a field. Okay. The main parts of an Access database are tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, and modules. I don't actually use macros in my work, although there is one macro in this database. I clicked here to open that. This particular database, I'll click on modules, and you'll see there's one module, mod utilities. There's only one report. There are numerous forms. There are numerous queries, not too many, and lots of tables. Tables have this kind of icon here. Queries have an icon that shows what looks like two tables, because queries join tables together. A form looks like this with a little header bar that's in red. Reports are with this icon. Macros, again, and modules. I had mentioned earlier that queries join tables together. Here I've opened a few queries, and I'm going to come into here, and here's one called Query Minnow Trap. I'll go into Design View on that, and there are multiple ways to get into Design View. This is Design View. There's also SQL View. You can see when you open Design View that there's some complexity here. This particular query joins together three tables, and what we have here is what they call the Query by Example pane. It's Access is famous for it. Okay, here I have two tables open for you to see, and I also have the relationships window that we observed earlier. I have this events table and one called Observer IU. I can go into the design view for a table and see how that table is laid out. These are the field names here. These are the data types. If you want to know what data types exist, you can just click here and see the various ones that are available to you. When I say to you, I mean to the designer of the database. The assumption behind this video is that you're the manager or the director in this process, and that you will not be actually designing these tables. They'll be done for you. But it's important to know what kind of data types exist. In this case, this table has pretty much just text. In this case, I'm going to go into Design View. You can see we have text mixed with numbers, mixed with dates. Go to Datasheet View for this one, and to Datasheet View for this one. And we'll see you also have this little plus. That opens up a sub-data sheet. Observer LU is linked through this table. There's a linkage there to this table here, events. That means that by default, if we were to install the sub-data sheet here and tell Access to do that, you could click here and see what is in T-Link observers by clicking there. In a professional Access database, users don't really interact with tables directly. They interact with various forms, and the forms provide a level of security between the user and the data. In this case, you could interact with the data directly in a table. For instance, I could change the name here without there being any validation efforts at all to make sure that that was done properly, or that I even had the rights to do it. I had said earlier that in a professional Access database, users interact with data through forms. and that in a user-style access database, the users of the database might interact with the data directly in the tables where the data actually exists. Here's an example of a form where the user might interact with data, and it's instructive because it shows the various parts of a form, these things called controls. Okay, here's a control. It's called a label. Technically, it's a label. This is another label here. This, people call it often a drop down. This particular one has two columns. It has a scroll bar. That's another type of control. The drop down is technically what's called a combo box. Here's another one here. This one only has one column, but of course it has a scroll bar. Here's another label here. It says event ID. These are text boxes. These text boxes have labels. This is a command button. Create new location ID. I'm going to click the command button and it opens another form. This form has another button here that doesn't do anything. Text box. Here's a checkbox. These are combo boxes here. This one has two columns in it. Another text box. This is a subform. This is a subform label that was left in place. These are command buttons. These are record selectors down here. They're not in use because there's no records in this subform. This is the record selector for the entire form. If you go into design view, you can see the subform here. I just selected it. More command buttons, sorry. Combo boxes here, label, check boxes. I'll close this. Here we have a subform in a certain format. Here we have a subform that's been presented as a data sheet. I can actually go into design view here. Here's a subform here. Here's a subform here. This one is being presented as a data sheet, and this one's being presented as a single form. But you can see the command buttons here, the combo box here, the labels, and that's how forms are laid out. You should not feel that the type of controls that I just discussed are the only ones available. On the Design tab in the menu, you can see all the many controls that are available, and these are not all because it's also possible to bring in controls from other domains. Okay, we've discussed the various controls that exist on a form. For example, here we have a form, and we have this control here, which is a command button. And when you click on that, something happens. And the question is, well, what makes that something happen? The answer is computer code, more specifically VBA. All professional-grade access databases and most user-grade access databases have some kind of code behind them. VBA. Come to Database Tools, click on Visual Basic, and you'll be taken to the code project. The code project contains both the Microsoft Access class objects, which include the various forms. For instance, that is the code behind this form. It also includes the code behind various modules. This particular module only contains 3 lines of code. Again, this is called VBA. And in an access database of any importance, we're going to expect a quite elaborate code project. This concludes video 1 in the series entitled What is MS Access? We hope it makes it easier for you as the manager or director to converse with your access developer who's been brought in to create an access database for your team. If you like this kind of thing, please hit like and subscribe and look for more videos in the near future.